All right, here we go. So I'm back on the episodes, and today we have with us my sister-in-law, Sarah. So Sarah runs SB Recruitment, who is also, they have half our office space. So if you ever come into our office, you'll see her. And I guess, because she's my sister-in-law, that's how we ended up sharing an office together. But I'll hand it over to you, Sarah, to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I started up SB Recruitment 15 years ago, actually. Come this Monday, I would have resigned from paid employment 15 years ago. And when first started, we were only really for financial services, for credit and collections, expanded the business, and we now recruit within accounting, banking and finance, and the government sector.
Yeah, I'll get you to rewind because I know like a story from before Sarah started SB. So if you go back, you used to have like this picture on your wall of like a pay slip that you got before the GFC.
Oh yeah, wow.
Before you started SB.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and then you've actually told me the story like when you left to start SB, how the whole GFC was like just causing people to leave clients and there was no non-competes and you sort of just went in. Do you want to go into those two things?
I started the business mainly because, you're right, during the GFC, the role of a recruiter became very, very transactional. Which, look, I understand from a business perspective, like there was not much work going on. Recruiters just had to be accountable for what they were bringing in, if they were bringing in anything. Like it did get very, very bad. Like you could go weeks with no jobs on at all. It was crazy. And I remember in the lead up to Christmas one time during the GFC, every company we called, they were like, we've had to make people redundant. So it was a very challenging time for businesses, but especially recruitment companies, because there wasn't any employment going on. But it got to the point where being a recruiter, you had to be really transactional and you really were a walking spreadsheet. If you couldn't give the proper care to your clients, you couldn't give the proper care to your candidates, and you couldn't just take that time to take a breather with them and really assist them. And I just didn't want to work like that anymore. Jenny, who works with me now, she had mentioned a couple of years before I actually did it that I should go out on my own. And I felt I wasn't ready at that point. But once you've recruited through something like a GFC, you're pretty ready for it. And so at that point, I just felt it was time.
When did you know you were ready? Because I think like Joe, like when we sit down and speak to a lot of clients, right? Like, and there's a lot of people that want to go out on their own. They're always like, don't feel ready. Even I was like on a call with one of my mates this morning, and he's in marketing, and he was saying to me, I just don't know if I'm ready, sort of thing. And I've been telling him for 10 years, like he's the best marketer I've met, except for you, Tax. Sorry, mate. No, like he's so good, but he works in ultra big business, and he's saying he's not ready. So like, is there anything that comes into mind like of when you realised you were ready?
Look, I think whenever you are about to take on something like starting your own business, it's going to be a risk. Yeah. And you've got to be humble enough to realise that. So at that point, the alternative was to stay employed as a recruiter under somebody else's control of how I do things. And for me, that just wasn't the better option. I just felt like I could control the narrative a lot more myself. And I just sort of took the plunge. And that's the same sort of like with your mate. A lot of my clients back then were all large corporates as well. And to be able to work with large corporates, they're not just going to take a punt on people. So you've got to be prepared that you're taking a risk. You're not going to be in the same position you were in as an employee. Yep. You're not going to be earning any money for a long time. So you've got to make sure financially you can support yourself for a little while. But you sort of need to take that plunge at some point. And I don't think there's ever a perfect environment to do it. I think starting it up, though, at that back end of the GFC, looking back now, for me, that was a perfect environment because it made me work harder. And it sort of set those foundations for the business, really.
Yeah, it's funny that you say you had to work harder in GFC because like we were, with Sarah through COVID as well, and I hope you don't mind me saying we can edit it out if we need to, but like your business was one of the only ones that didn't get JobKeeper and all the help because like you were,
adamant that I wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, you were also like probably working like everyone else like was like, oh great, we get free money, and they put their, like they relaxed a bit, and you just went like double. You went double and then didn't get any of the help or anything like that. But then obviously when you came out, it was like way
a lot better. Yeah, that's right. And look, I think as well during COVID, the fact that we had diversified our business so much up until that point really helped us, because when the commercial sector just went, oh shit, what the hell is going on here? They stopped recruitment. They stopped investing in their staff, and they just took a pause. They didn't know what they were doing. Whereas our government team became so busy because the government was pumping out all these initiatives, and they were hiring like crazy, and they were hiring through agency because they needed the headcount. So the fact that we were able to diversify up till that point, I think really, really helped us during COVID. And then it started to get crazy on both commercial and government, because the commercial sector just found their feet. You know, they didn't freak out as much. And then they were like, hang on a sec, all our staff are leaving to go to other jobs. There's money being thrown around. Salaries went through the roof. And so then we were busy in both camps.
How do you go about, like, you've gone through 2 massive downturns. How do you then manage the people in the business to make sure they're busy, like the roles, responsibilities and all that kind of stuff during those periods? Are you quick to shift what you're looking at, or are you just up or down?
Look, we've stayed small, and we're never going to be the next Hayes in that sense. Like, I'm never going to put on hundreds and hundreds of staff, because it means during those downturns you're going to let go of hundreds and hundreds of staff. So we have stayed small, but we're a very, very agile team. So, like, for example, Kat supports Kim over in the government area, but every now and then if we need her in commercial to help us out, she comes over. Same with if government's going crazy and commercial's a little bit quiet, Jen will step over and help out over there as well. So I think that's a part of business these days, that you just have to have a really agile team. They can't just be so completely set in their ways in their departments. They've got to be able to put their hand up and help out where they need to. And so that's probably been the biggest thing for us. We've had a really good team, a very stable team, and we all work really well together, and everyone's committed to the business and to each other as well. I think we've got a very family feel environment. We know about each other's kids, all of that sort of stuff, which really builds a culture that, that is sort of committed to making sure things are going to be okay.
And like, sorry, if I can rewind just for one question, just this is for my mate if he's listening. Like, how did you go from working with big business at the very, very start to then like being on your own? Like, did you still try and target big business clients, or did you switch it up a bit?
I started with my own network, and that network was working in large corporates and a little bit in that medium space as well. The natural progression is to talk to the people that you already know, to say, this is what I'm doing now. And you might not get business out of them straight away, but they're going to keep talking with you. And I've been very relationship orientated my whole career. So I've got clients that I worked with 20 years ago who are still my clients now. So I think you need to be realistic. You're not going to get work out of them straight away. But those relationships will develop with time, and your reputation will then start breeding through those corporations. But you've got to eat a lot of humble pie. You're starting from the beginning. You're cold calling. You can't be somebody who's just going to put something on social media and think that suddenly you're going to be getting business out of it. So I think you've got to really look at all different avenues of your business development and be prepared to be that person that's on the phone doing those shitty calls that make you feel like crap. But if anyone's got to do it, it's you as a business owner.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, yeah, you are the business when you're a small business.
Yeah.
Like there's consultants that come in and say like, oh, you know, you should be working on the business, not in the business. Like, I think they got it all wrong. Because like, as soon as you do that, you got too many layers of expenses. Like you literally, I couldn't agree with that comment more. Like you are the business.
Yeah.
We've seen that a lot especially in the recruitment space, where the owners, they built it to a certain point, they're really happy with that. And then they take a step back and they just have the staff in there running it.
Yeah.
And it just starts to go downhill straight away.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how quickly it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the staff are working hard, but they just don't have the relationships.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I think as well, if you're going to take your foot off the pedal and not be facing with your clients, with your candidates, you're not really showing them that you're that committed to providing a good service, because, I don't know, your feet are up and you're thinking about your own lifestyle. There are millions of recruitment agencies. Those candidates and clients can go with any of them. So really, at the end of the day, they're working with your agency because of you and your people, and you need to be in that every single day until you exit the company or you retire or whatever.
How else do you foster those relationships? Like, do you try to see them every certain amount of time? Do you call them up? Look,
Prior to COVID, it was a very, very different landscape. You're finding now that companies, your contacts in those companies are in the office for maybe 2 to 3 days a week, and they're flat out. Because everyone jams all of their meetings into those days when they're in the office, and then they use their time at home just to log in and clean up their work that they missed out on. So it is hard to find time to get them. I try, and this isn't because it's a targeted business development approach or anything, but I would like to be out with my key clients for a lunch or a dinner or a drink or something at least once every 6 months, and then maybe a coffee between that. But I'm on the phones with them anyway, at least once a month. Or if we're recruiting with them, we're on the phone with them every day anyhow. In terms of new business and fostering new business, again, it comes down to just doing a bit of a needs analysis with them and what works for them best. Because you don't want to be pushing yourself onto them having a call cycle every single month. It's not going to work for them, and it's just going to piss them off. So it doesn't show that you're really all that committed to collaborating with them.
Mm. Yeah, so asking what their needs are and then just meeting those needs.
Yeah,
really.
how do you want to work with me?
Yeah.
What's the best approach for you? Is it easier for me to contact you on emails? Is it easier for you that we just get a coffee once a year? So finding out from them what works for best for them.
What's the most common mistakes that you see recruiters make? Like, I guess maybe staff members and then ones that set their own business up. And then actually Joe could probably answer this because he's got like, how many recruiters do you have on your books?
15 probably.
Okay, yeah. So you go Sarah first, and then mate, you should say what you see mostly for recruiters. I
think a common mistake that recruiters make is that, probably the mistake that I made as well, is that I thought straight away I could run my own business. You don't know a lot about business as a recruiter. You know a lot about recruitment, and that's pretty much it. You might get involved with staff management and all that sort of stuff, but you don't know a lot about the financials, IT systems, building the foundation of the company for other people to come in and follow processes and procedures. So I think for recruiters who are going to embark on that journey, they've got to take a step back and say, okay, what are the foundations that need to be built first in order for me to do that? And I did spend a lot of time building out things before I actually decided to resign, but it's not the same as once you get in there and you're like, oh shit, I've got to issue invoices, I've got to, what's GST, you know, like all of that sort of stuff that if you haven't actually been running the business itself, that can be quite a journey. Mm.
Yeah, and it's funny that Sarah says that because, like, I know, like, Joe's going to say almost the exact same thing. Do you want to say?
There's a long list, to be honest.
Make it quick.
The initial conversation that I have with people that are recruiters for someone else, and they ring up and they go, I want to start my own business. I'm doing 300 grand of revenue or 400 grand of revenue working for this place, and I can just move it over. It's not that easy, is it?
No.
It can be, but it's a big slog for 2 years to get the relationship maybe with that company, usually. Yeah. And so they might not follow you, and they assume they will.
Yeah.
So really trying to build your own relationships with your own companies, not just doing the work for ones that already have a relationship.
Yeah, agreed.
Is really important, and you can start doing that even as working for someone else.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason you can't bring in your own work, and you're not going to get all the revenue, but you're building those relationships at the start. Yeah. There's another thing that I find is like people try to do it part-time.
Yeah, okay.
By doing another job. That rarely works in most industries.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's one as well that I've been seeing a lot lately, and look, maybe it's the way to get through the difficult times, but where they'll place someone for someone else's recruiting business, almost like a partnership. Yep. But they're not really building any relationship. Yep. They're just finding a candidate.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not going to bring in the recurring revenue, long-term revenue. You're going to get one payment. Yep. If they even pay you. Yeah. You know, so there's a few things that people do, like, maybe it's just to get by, but it's you got to think like, how do I build a long-term business? And I think that's what you've been successful in those difficult times. You just got to have more relationships. Yeah,
it comes down to relationships. I think as well with recruitment companies, though, you need to have a temp desk. If you plan on hiring staff, that temp desk will ensure the recurring revenue, because there will be terrible perm months. You're not going to be raising, you might have done 300K for your last company, but you're not going to be bringing that money in your own company when you're hiring staff as well. And so that reoccurring revenue, like that for us, is so important, even over Christmas, because you do perm placements and you're invoicing on that perm placement when the person starts. How many people are starting a new job in the lead up to Christmas? Like no one. So you need...
Like, just so everyone understands, like, so obviously when you run a business, there's recurring revenue and then there's like upfront revenue. So if I use if I use a lawyer for an example, all of their revenue is one-off because people generally only use them for, buying a house, which you're not doing all the time. But you will have the existing relationship with that lawyer, so you might always go back to him for revenue.
Or her.
Yeah, or her, sorry. Yeah. And then I guess for like what Sarah's going into is if you've got a temp book, so you've got someone that they put into a role that is getting paid monthly, that would be recurring revenue because they're taking a couple of dollars off the top of that wage, and then that's recurring revenue for recruitment. And then the perm revenue is non-recurring sort of thing.
Correct.
Except in the sense that she's got the relationship with the person every time they need to hire a staff member, which once a year.
It's the same as a real estate agency. Yep. So the rental role is similar to a temp book for the recruitment industry. So the example of Christmas, you've got not many companies are going to start a new person in the lead up to Christmas. We maybe raise perm for maybe the first week of December, and then you tend to find no one really starts people in a perm job until after Australia Day. So if you don't have that temp recurring revenue, you better have made a hell of a lot of placements in perm to make sure you're looked after for that 2-month period. Because also when you raise that perm invoice, you've got 7, 14, 30-day payment terms, so they're not paying you straight away.
When you're in like a big company, do you have to go and find the revenue and then go and find the candidate, or do you just find candidates when you're in a bigger recruitment? Yeah,
it depends. If they've got it's called preferred supplier arrangements. Yeah. So if you're on a PSA with a particular company, you're when they do go to agency, they'll come to you. But usually they call it a 360-degree recruiter. So a 360-degree recruiter will do their own business development plus source their candidates.
Okay.
A candidate manager tends to look after just the candidate side. So we're actually recruiting one of those at the moment. So they'll come in, they'll work with Jenny, who will look after the clients. The candidate manager, though, will source the candidates for the roles. They might have consultative conversations with the clients around salaries and things like that, but generally Jen would be responsible for the business development. Or you can take on a job where you do 360 and you do everything.
Yeah, okay.
Just speaking on the temp book as well, was the valuation of the company and potential sale in the future a consideration when setting up the temp book? Because, I mean...
you can't sell a recruitment company without it.
Yeah, like the valuation in recruiting companies comes from that because it's recurring. Was that a consideration, or it's just sort of came about?
Yes, and... no as well, just because my first job was a temp recruiter. I love temp recruitment. I love the speed of it. I love looking after because those temps are employees of the business. So I do love temp recruitment in itself. So it was sort of a natural drive for me to go into that space as well. But yeah, it was definitely, like I always knew you couldn't sell a recruitment company unless you've got your temp book going.
But yeah, so like at the role that Sarah had pre-GFC, she used to get paid more than the directors because her temp book was like so big, and then the way they'd done the contract was just written that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you actually have, always loved the temp book.
Yeah, I love the temp book.
Which is like, I mean, that's good for value, right?
Yeah. But like Kim, she loves temp recruitment. She said, I couldn't do perm to save my life, but I had to learn how to do perm because I started the business and I just had to do both. But yeah, you're either a temp recruiter or you're a perm recruiter. You can't do both really.
Happy birthday to Kim for yes.
Yes, happy birthday to Kim.
25th birthday. Nah, she's 27. She's 27. Happy birthday to Kim and Jenny today. All your staff have the birthdays around the same time.
May babies.
Yeah, it means one lunch. That's good
one
for
lunch
you.
And it's done.
Must be something about the star signs. Like,
exactly right.
I just wanted to touch on your staff because as long as I've known you, and I don't know if you've had male staff previously, but
Yeah.
you're a full female
Yep.
workforce, which I
Yep.
love. Is that deliberate? And
We have had male staff members in the past, and it's not deliberate by any means. We just all work really well together, the team that we've got. There's no... Look, I think there's some great male recruiters out there, don't get me wrong, but just to this point at the moment, we just haven't done a lot of hiring anyway in the business, and the team just happens to be female. We are interviewing a male next week, so that could change.
That could ruin the atmosphere in the office. But
Well,
I actually love it that they're all
Yeah.
that you guys are all female. Like it, I love that. Like you're providing opportunities to women
Yeah.
to, progress. Like
Yeah.
we want equal opportunities.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of male dominated places out there, so I think it's great.
I think as well, like especially if you're a business owner and you are hiring, you have to hire females, but if you've got the female workforce, you really do need to consider their family unit. Like at the end of the day, like I know that my staff members, they work better at home because they're very, very organised, but it also means that instead of taking a long lunch, they might leave the office or their desk at 2:30, pick up the kids, bring them home, feed them some food, and then log in until 5:30. So you've got to understand that flexibility is key, and when you provide that flexibility, you really get so much back in return. And I think that we've created a really good environment for people to speak up and say, hey, I need this, because like Leona came in a few hours late today because they did a Mother's Day breakfast. Like you just, and I don't even say to them, I say to them, don't ask me for the time off, just let me know that that's going to be happening. And so they do. And I don't expect it to be annual leave or anything like that. So, but I think that is quite important now for males as well. Like I think, like you guys are dads.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much better does it feel that you can take time out to go and see your kids in their assembly or something like that? So I think I think companies just need to get better at that family commitment, and realise that your workforce aren't just about your company. They've got a family behind them, and it's just as much as you're working for your family and providing for your family, so are they. So.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the reasons we went out on our own was for family.
Yeah.
How much do you get involved in your clients' policies or procedures in terms of hiring? Is that something that you help with, or you get a lawyer involved or a HR expert?
We tend to, there's some clients where we will workshop with them around their current teams, what they're looking for. We're currently recruiting for a HR generalist, and the HR manager wasn't really sure of what she needed, so I sat with her and really pulled out from her role what she shouldn't be doing to create that JD, and so we were able to workshop it together and make sure she's getting the right person into her team. There's been so many changes with industrial relation laws at the moment, and we are very committed to making sure we're a compliant organisation and that we're doing the right thing by candidates and companies. And we've got an external HR consultant, but we've also got some very, very good employment lawyers, and we're all kept abreast of everything. And you tend to find that your hiring managers aren't, because there's no one in the business that's telling them what's going on in those industrial relation landscapes. And so it gives us the opportunity as well to provide them with that education. So when they go to market, they know what they're doing, basically. Yeah.
So when the election happened recently, is that like your prime viewing for you, and you're like, what are the changes to HR rules going to happen, or is that happening all the time?
It's happening all the time. Look, when Labor government came in their last term, they introduced, I think it was 82 industrial relation law changes that they wanted to move through Parliament, and I think most of them have gone through now. We've obviously really, really honed in on those that affect our business, because a lot of it did come back to the recruitment industry and labour hire, so it really affects our temp desk. So what was the question? Oh, the recent thing. So I suspect there's going to be more changes on the cards that we just need to stay on top of.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's an ever-changing landscape.
Yeah,
isn't it? Even
is.
taxes ever-changing.
Yeah.
The government changes. And
How do you track your financial performance in the business, or even I guess sales targets and stuff, like outside financial things?
Yeah.
How do you track all that?
Well, everyone here who is revenue earning, they've got a billings target. So perm, anyone who focuses on perm, their billings target is based on the fee that we charge for the candidate being placed in the job. Anyone who's a temp recruiter is focused on a billings target, which is basically the margin. So for temp recruitment, we might invoice at $1,500. The temp's getting $900. That $600 is like superannuation, payroll tax, workers' comp, our insurances, all of that, and then our margin. So they get it on that margin. So that's for the billings, like the sales targets. Then obviously, I mean, to be honest with you, until you guys took over our accounts, we never had solid financials that we were receiving on a monthly basis. So now we're able to keep track of revenue, profit, margins, the whole lot.
Yeah, I think it's not. Is it something that came naturally to you, or is it something that you're learning over time?
Still hasn't come naturally. Look, at the end of the day, I know what I'm focusing on. I know what's important in terms of profit and revenue and all of that. But like just then that example of 1,500, 900, I was like, shit, what's the difference? So like, I'm not great with numbers. I need my calculators. So yeah, it's a lot easier to hand it over.
We've got a lot of spreadsheets for that.
We've got heaps of them.
Templates and stuff that pop out how much money you're making.
Exactly. So, yeah.
With the tax side, we normally ask this late, but I think it's relevant here. Like, what is your least favourite tax?
Payroll tax.
Yeah. I knew you'd say that. It has to be for a temp recruiter.
Yeah, but it just is also a tax that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you penalise a company for the more people that they hire? Like, you're ensuring employment, but we just keep paying that payroll tax bill. Yeah.
They don't want to give it up because it's such a high amount of revenue for the states.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a better way to restructure it all. Has to be.
You'd hope so.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even yours, like, you place one person in WA, then you got to register for payroll tax in WA. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
But everyone's probably sick of listening to payroll tax is a joke. But until you're in it, like, it really is terrible.
Well, yeah, exactly right. Like, it's a lot of money that goes out every single month.
Yeah.
For us anyway. I mean, you guys do our bills.
What's your advice for recruiters that, well, like you say about yourself, like the numbers don't come naturally?
Yeah.
Is it just get a good advisor? Is it learn about it? Is it what would you advise for people?
Well, yeah, from a financials perspective, definitely. Line yourself up with accountants that you can trust, and that you can call on whenever you need to call on them. Like, I don't know if it's just because we're all in a shared environment, but your team, I can reach out to you guys at any stage. Even if I'm up in Queensland, I get an answer straight away. So I think you need to find your external consultants that can really support you, and not just in accounting, but you need a solicitor. You need a really good solicitor. And you also need to build those foundations before you hit the go button, because if you don't have the foundations in place, you're going to be chasing your tail the whole time. And you can't hire staff when you're ready to, because they're going to come into a bit of a shit show, really. And I think on the staffing bit is be careful who you hire, and just make sure that you're creating a really good team environment for them. Because look, hats off to my guys. They're amazing, amazing team. And they deal with some shit day in and day out, but they stay focused, they stay committed, and you just can't ask for a better team as far as I'm concerned in recruitment. So I definitely say that, but definitely look from the accounting perspective. For me, it took a very long time to find a good accountant that I could rely on. And I think that is a very big challenge for small businesses. You've got accounting firms that, look, personally, there's a lot of accounting firms out there that aren't that committed to their clients. And you don't know about accounting when you've got your own business. Like, you're not the professional in accounting, you're the professional in recruitment. So yeah, finding a good firm that you can line yourself up with is really, really important.
Yeah. There's people that you think accountants do a range of things, and most firms just do tax compliance.
Yeah.
And you expect them to be able to help in this area.
Yeah.
And they can't.
Because
they don't have the resources and they don't have the expertity to do it.
Yeah.
Or the process. And I'd imagine it's the same in recruitment. Like, you can't just call one recruiter and expect them to be able to place something if they're not in your industry and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true.
So your focus is on accounting and finance and government. Is there any looking at any other areas at the moment, or?
Look, we did a bit of a workshop about a month or so ago, and I think for the next 12 to 18 months, we're definitely just going to stick in those silos. It's what we do best. We collaborate really well with our clients. We like to work as if we're an extension of their business. Areas that I'd probably look at in the future would be maybe around cyber, AI, that sort of space. But we don't have those expertise, and you really need the expertise to be able to recruit in those areas. But for the moment, for the next 18 months at least, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing and expanding across the east coast of Australia for that.
What's the best part about running your own business?
Well, there's different areas, I suppose. From a staffing perspective, I think it's been such a beautiful journey to see people grow in their roles. Like Kim came to us when she was in her last year of uni. I think she was working with us like 2 days a week. She's now, I would say, one of the best government recruitment agents in New South Wales. I think she knows the government sector back to front, and she does an amazing job. She's got 2 to 3 staff that report through to her. So seeing her journey over, I think it was like 5, 6, 7 years maybe. Like, that's just been amazing. And Leona came to me on a working holiday visa, answering phones, and she's now the ops manager. And honestly, I couldn't run the bloody business without her. Yeah, she's 100%. Amazing. So from a staffing perspective, it's really beautiful to see all of their growth journey. I love connecting with businesses. I love learning about organisations and why they do what they do and how they do it. So for me, I get a big kick out of helping those organisations grow their teams and being part of that strategy for them for the future. But also from a candidate perspective, like again, we've got candidates that come to us out of university who haven't been given a shot. We get them that chance, and then they just go. You know, they get a great career.
So funny you say that. I heard you guys I heard Jen and Kim on the phones the other day, and they were calling everyone.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of like coming out of uni, GFC. There was no jobs. No one gave me a shot.
Yeah.
And I had this guy recruiter. I still remember his name's Ben. Full legend. Got me a job at CBA just as a temp thing. Yeah. Remember him, and just forever grateful for that guy for giving this opportunity. So that would be nice as well.
Yeah. I think as well, yes, from a personal perspective, you do get a lot out of it financially, and you get that flexibility if you need it. Like I don't report into anyone, so if I wanted to go, like this afternoon, I've got to go for something for my uncle, like I'll just leave at 3:45 for that. You do have that mum guilt struggle all the time. Like I always feel bad if I take a day off or something because, the rest of the team's working so hard.
Have that guilt as well?
It's never crossed my mind.
But yeah, there's that flexibility piece as well, obviously, which is, I think, what a lot of people go into business for, is being able to call their own shots and live their life the way they want to.
Yeah, I reckon if you go into your own business, effort equals reward.
Yeah.
So for ages, I know, me and Joe, because we were working together previously, we would, I would, maybe you didn't at the time, you were a very 9 to 5 man, but you probably do more than I do anyway.
Yeah.
But I would work late, making sure I'm doing deadlines and stuff like that, and it comes to pay review time, and I put all this effort in, and I don't get rewarded because it's not in the budget or something. Whereas when you work for yourself, if you're working late, you're billing that client, or you know what I mean. So effort equals reward when you work for yourself, and the more hours you put in, generally, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I didn't work past 5 because they took away my bonus, mate. After one argument. Yeah.
That's better.
One argument.
More, So even now, Joe's very 9 to 5. But I guess you do more in that 9 to 5 than everyone else.
How can temps or people who want a job or companies get hold of you, Sarah, and the team? Sure. Is there one easy way or?
Look, you could go to our website, sbrecruitment.com. It's got all of our contact details, all of our profiles in there. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, obviously our phone number's more the 02 number, so that's also on the website as well. But honestly, we've all got LinkedIn profiles, and we've all got up there on the website as well if you want to connect to us individually.
Yeah, and we'll share that at the bottom of the videos, and people will get hold of you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks.
coming in and
Coming in. Thanks for moving 10 metres.
Thanks for allocating the time today to obviously
No worries.
join us.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so tax question. Got an interesting one from Anonymous today. They've just sold a commercial property for $2.5 million. The commercial property was used by their business, and they've got a pretty large gain. So I think the gain is about $2 million, and they're wondering what steps you would go through in terms of reducing that. Now, looking at this client, I know that they've got a loan sitting in a company like for a substantial amount of money, let's say $1 million, in a company that they've lent that they're just not going to get back. So is there anything they can do with that to help offset this?
Okay, there's a bit to get through there. Let's rip in. So ultimately, like if you sell either a small business or assets that were used in a small business, like this property, first we'd look at whether they're eligible for the small business tax concessions, which could reduce the gain down to zero. So if we break that down, you would first look at who owns the asset. So let's say it's owned by a trust or an individual. They're going to be eligible if they've held the asset for more than 12 months for a general 50% discount, which is for anyone. So if they sold it for a gain of 2.5,
yeah. Then sale price was actually $4 million.
Okay, so let's focus on the gain.
Yep.
2.5, then it would come down to 1.25.
Yep.
Now, there are small business concessions which would allow that to get another 50% discount using an active asset test, which we probably won't go into detail, but we'll work through that if they met that rule. But there are asset valuation rules in terms of business assets if they need to be under 6 mil.
So this client used it for work, so it was their office that they used to rent for the company that they owned.
Yeah, so it would look at the trust itself as well, though, or the entity, and what are the assets in that entity. So to be an active asset, you need it to be 80% or more in 8 of the last 15 years, so more than half of the years that it's owned. And more than 80% are active assets.
Okay.
All right. So a non-active asset, for example, you own shares in Telstra in that trust. That's not going to be an active asset because it's just an investment amount and you're getting a dividend for it. It's not actually used in small business. So that's not going to meet the requirement. So we look at that test, and then from there, if they met the test and they met the 6 mil test, then that's going to be eligible.
So the total assets need to be less than 6 mil.
Yeah.
And of that, the $5 million of the assets have to be active. So not passive income. They need to be active, like as in like you're actually working to do it.
Well, the 6 mil and the active asset test are separate tests.
No, yeah. But I'm just saying, let's say let's say they're at 6 mil, like 80% of that, that's fine.
So if they meet both requirements,
yep,
then they would meet the test and they would get another 50% discount on the gain. So now you've gone from, and there are other ones as well with retirement and stuff like that, which could come into it. But so now you've got a quarter of the gain of what you made, right? So now we're at 1.25, so 675 or whatever it is.
Yep.
Probably should do the maths properly.
Yeah.
No, 625.
Half of one.
625. Yeah. Now you can either roll that over and buy another small business asset, active asset, to roll it forward, but your cost base is only going to be 625. Or you can put an amount of up to 500 grand into super, tax free. And you can do that for yourself and your spouse, for example. So in this case, they could go from 625 to zero, put 625 grand into super. And especially when you're older and you've met a condition of release, for example, you're over 65, that then would be able to be withdrawn tax free.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so if they meet all the requirements, then they'll be able to do that. Let's say they didn't meet the requirements. What happens to the loan?
Oh, so now we haven't even taken into account the loan yet.
Yeah.
So where you have a loan to a company, for example, and that company is no longer going to pay you back, be able to pay you back, there might be an agreement to write that loan off. That becomes a capital loss for you.
Yep, debt forgiveness.
Debt forgiveness. So then maybe that can offset the capital gain that the same entity made and then reduces the gain. So I'd be looking at that for that person.
Okay, so in this case, there's two pieces of probably detailed like advice that we need to look at for them before we could tell them what the capital gain is, and more than a simple 50%, and you've got to pay the tax, because there's two options there where they'll potentially pay no tax.
Yeah, well, definitely reduced significantly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good
Interesting.
one.
Very nice.
Thanks for the question.
Thanks for the sender.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Luke.